Hi there! In this video, I want to share with you how I set up my Push 3 so that it acts like a live performance effects module flash mixer, much like you would use in Sp404. And also talk about a major missing feature that kind of throws a wrench into my whole computerless standalone workflow. If you're already subscribed, welcome back, my friend. If this is your first time here, hi, welcome to the Midlight Synthesis. Let's get started. Today's video was made possible thanks to my friends at Sweetwater. Sweetwater is one of the world's largest musical stores, and they have everything from synthesizers to effects pedals, grand pianos, mixing tables, you name it. They offer international shipping and have an amazing staff that's always available to answer your questions and guide you to the best gear for your musical needs. If you buy gear from them using my affiliate links, you help support this channel at no additional cost to you. Huge thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to our jam. As you may already know, the Sp404 is a sampler, a sequencer, a looper, and perhaps more famously, an amazing live performance effects box and mixer. One of its main functions in my rigs has been to simply grab incoming audio and mangle it with its internal effects. And even though it sounds great, my main gripe with it is that I often find it hard to remember how to operate it, especially after so many firmware updates and new functions that require a Mortal Kombat fatality level of button combos to use properly. And just to be clear here, I'm not hating on the Sp404 by any stretch of the imagination. I love that box. I just find it a bit frustrating at times since I think that the software has kind of outgrown its faceplate and physical control layout, but still, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more versatile performance effects module than the Sp404 out there. Until the Push 3, that is. Now, to set this up, you'll need a Push 3, ideally an external MIDI controller like the Akai MIDIMIX I'm using here, an audio source, which in this case is a track I made entirely on the wonderful Dirtywave M8, a computer running Ableton Live, some masking tape, a marker. And even though coffee is not required, it is highly recommended. So let me show you how this is all set up. After creating a new project in Ableton, you're going to want to make an audio track which we'll be using to monitor the audio ins. This channel has monitoring turned on, and it's monitoring channels 1 and 2, which is the Dirtywave M8. This channel is going to be acting as my main Sp404. Okay, so what I've done here is that I've added a few effects into my audio track in a way that it sort of imitates the way that you'd have the effects on an Sp404. Like, for example, I have a beat repeat as my first effect. Now let's turn on the M8 and let's see what happens. Some beat repeat. Very Sp404-ish. Then we have a 3-band EQ. Nice filtering over there. I have a very strange reverb effect. I have a chorus ensemble. And finally, I have this delay over here. Now, keep in mind that we can also make entire effects chains on our Sends channel. So for example, on channel B, which you can assign, for example, to one of your faders, I have this delay effect. And that way you can do something that kind of reminds me of the scenes of an Octatrack. After you've chosen your effects, it's time to map out your physical controls. And you do this by clicking the MIDI button right here on the top right corner. Then you click on the target parameter that you want to map, like for example, the on-off of the delay, and then you just click on the button that you want to assign it to. Now I have an on and off. So what I did over here was the beat repeat I have assigned to on-off over here. As for the EQ, I have my low frequencies, my middle frequencies, and my high frequencies assigned to these 3 knobs. My hybrid reverb will be on and off over here on this 3rd rec arm. Chorus ensemble effect I have assigned to these faders so I can mess around with the rate and with the amount, as well as the dry wet signal. Now I need to point out a very important detail here. First off is that the MIDI mix comes pre-programmed to act as a mixer control surface for Ableton. If you want it to be more than that and act as a MIDI mappable control surface, you want to go into Ableton's MIDI settings and you want to put this MIDI mix input into remote and click off track. So now you can assign this to pretty much whatever you want. Another important thing to note is that if I press play over here, I have the beat repeat on, but nothing's happening. That's because the push isn't being triggered by the Dirtywave. So what I want to do is I want to go into my MIDI again And I'm going to assign the Ableton Push 3 external port to external sync since I have this hooked up via MIDI. And now, that's some beat repeat right there. And to wrap things up, since we are using a Push 3, it would be a criminal offense not to add one of the internal MPE capable synths so we can jam along live. This one right here will do just fine. In case you haven't noticed, it's really easy to get carried away and start adding things and mapping them out, and that's where our masking tape and our marker will come in really handy. Okay, that was fun. Now, let's talk about a few pros and cons about this setup. Now, although I love the Push interface with its lovely screen and its sensitive knobs, if you want to handle multiple parameters at the same time, the panel on the Push isn't going to cut it. Now, you're going to have to add an external MIDI controller. The reason for this is twofold. First, because with the Push controls, you can only access parameters that are being displayed right in front of you. If, say, you have a filter on one page and a delay on another, you won't be able to modify parameters on the effect that is not currently being shown with the knobs on the Push. The second reason that you'll want an external controller is that, at least at the time of this recording, there's no way to customize what parameters are being shown on screen, or any way to make an additional custom page for your parameter macros. If you could create such a page, that might save you the trouble of adding an additional external MIDI controller and mapping it out, which brings me to my biggest gripe with the Push 3 standalone. Eagle-eyed viewers in the audience might have noticed that I did a little MIDI mapping directly on Ableton Live and not on Push standalone. The reason for this is that, to both my surprise and chagrin, it simply can't be done. If you want to MIDI map an external controller to parameters on Push, you're going to have to drag out your laptop and do it on Ableton. Then after you configured everything just right, you have to export the project into Push 3. Especially for a user like me who's 99% doing all of my music, sound design, and setup out of the box, this limitation seems counterintuitive to the whole standalone promise of the Push 3. Now, I can only imagine how creative I could get with these setups if I was allowed to modify mappings directly on the Push without having to lose time in that back and forth between laptop and standalone. It seems like such an obvious function for it to have that I can only hope that in a future firmware update, this is going to happen somewhere down the line. Now, if I'm being honest, this isn't exactly a deal breaker for me regarding the Push 3 standalone, not by any long shot. I still very much consider it to be one of the most versatile, fun, and powerful groove boxes in my arsenal, and it has quickly become one of my main go-to boxes when I want to make music. But that missing feature does make it all the more evident that Push 3 still has a lot of growing up to do before it can claim the standalone throne. As it stands though, the sheer amount and quality of the effects available to you all at once and the ability to combine them in multiple sense channels makes the Push 3 an extremely attractive live performance mixer. Add to that the powerful sampler, sequencer, the internal synths, and I have to say, the future for Push 3 is looking very, very bright. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.